The reigning champion Denver Nuggets are over 30 games into their title defense, and there have already been some highs and some lows throughout the year. They started the year 9-2, then they ended up losing 4 of their next 5, and since then have put together multiple win streaks, sprinkled in with a couple losses that have stopped what I think would have been a 10-plus game win streak. The point is, they've been hooping this year. They're hovering around the top of the conference, again, as expected, and are looking just as primed as ever to put together yet another really good midseason run. Today, I want to go through their first 30 some odd games of the year and go through each of the main categories and give out some grades for how they're doing. I won't be grading individual players or individual coaches or anything like that. This will be on a team basis. So, without further ado, let's go over the Denver Nuggets progress report. First category we're going to start with is the jump shooting category for the Denver Nuggets. Now, for this grade, I did give them an A-. And honestly, this grade should be no surprise considering the fact that this is their calling card. This is the thing that they do, and they do it very well. They do it a lot better than a lot of other teams. Statistically, 37.6% from three-point as a unit, top 10. They're bottom 10 in makes and attempts. Again, no surprise there. This team does not volume shoot threes every single game. They can, and they have, and when they do, they really pour it on, but typically, they're not going to be putting up the same amount of shots that these other high-volume three-point shooting teams are going to do. But they're going to shoot it better than they do. Some of the downsides to this grade and why it's on A+ or an A right now, Jokic, AG, Julian are all 35% or lower from 3, which I'm not really trying to hold it against them in too much regard, right? Yes, I am disappointed in Joker and I am disappointed in AG's shooting numbers rather, from 3. The bar for shooting on this team is really high, so I'm not really mad. I'm not totally mad, I should say, about these 4 being below league average for players that play in the rotation. Because the floor is raised so high in terms of expectations, and because Jamal Murray raises it so much, because KCP is so effective and consistent, because we have these nights where everyone just starts popping off for 3. Here's the thing, like, the team as a whole is shooting really well, right? But these 2 being starters and taking away just a little bit of that shooting in the starting lineup, even though it is supplemented by KCP and MPJ and Jamal Murray, those 2 have dropped, and it's been noticeable. And it hasn't affected their season as a whole, but it has been something that I've taken note of. CB's improvement from the 3-point line is improving his grade. PY is coming around as well. And like I said, the KCP, Jamal Murray, MPJ consistency is keeping this grade above an A, or A-, I should say. For finishing, I'm going to give them a B-. 17th in the league in field goal percentage in the restricted area at 65%. They're 5th in the league in non-restricted area paint field goal percentage at 47%. That's a positive right there. There are plays, and if you watch enough Nuggets games, you see where this 47% comes from. You see the players that we have and the fact that they do utilize so much of that middle ground. AG also helps keep this number afloat. Obviously, someone who shoots 70+% in the restricted area. His dunker spot role is a key cog to this Nuggets production because it is a bailout option and also a go-to option when the 2-man is either stopped or when the 2-man is flowing. MPJ has taken a step up in his aggression toward the rim. He's driving more, settling less. He's finishing 72% at the rim. Jokic has taken a tremendous dip from last year to this year in finishing numbers. 66% in the restricted area this year compared to his 75 last year. 66% is pretty good. It's still effective. He's still scoring 20+ points. His scoring is coming in other ways. So finishing wise, yes, he's lower, and his finishing is such a huge impact on this offense that he kind of has to be taken down a notch in grade for this finishing category. So as a team, they haven't been tremendous, still effective and above average, but just not elite. For perimeter defense, this first part, I'm going to just do purely eye test here. Christian Braun hasn't been as effective as a defender, and this is a multitude of reasons. I don't think he's gotten worse talent-wise as a defender. He's been asked to switch on to larger players more often this year, and he has more responsibility offensively when running with that second unit and sometimes with the starters as well. So a lot of his energy is being placed in more different places now compared to last year, and I think it's just going to take him some time to adjust to that energy level that he has to give on both ends, KCP has been playing all level defense, the screen navigation, the lane steals. all about KCP's defense, so I don't have to go too much there. And MPJ as well has made some strides as a perimeter defender. He's still a little bit slow. Sometimes the hip switch or the hip swivel doesn't come fast enough, but that does not mean he has been a total slouch this year, because I don't think he has by any means. Now moving over to the numerical stuff and the stats, they allow 36% from three, which is the 9th lowest in the league. They have 15 deflections per game, which is the 8th highest in the league. KCP, AG, and PWatt are probably the biggest positives of this perimeter defense category. Of course, these three are our best defenders on the floor at any time, really. And they've been really fun to watch defensively. Aside from being effective and good, they've been really enjoyable to watch on the floor. Some of the downsides for this grade, however, Jamal and Reggie Jackson are point guard rotation. They get hunted a little too easily on the perimeter, and this is not something that I expected to be any different. This is not something that is a surprise to me. Reggie Jackson, specifically at this stage of his career, is not the greatest POA defender. He's not the greatest defender in general. Jamal Murray is a decent defender. He's more tailored toward guarding other guards and other people in the post, as opposed to being on the perimeter, but he's been serviceable. But there have been a lot of times where they have been taken advantage of on that perimeter. And not to say that these are the only two that have done it, because there are a couple other players on this roster that have, but I feel like those two getting our point guard minutes, pretty important that you are at least an average defender out there. That being said, though, as a team, the perimeter rotations, the three-point rotations have felt really, really good. They're locking on. It seems like a lot of games, they're seamless rotations. Everyone without a hitch, without oh shit, I'm going the wrong way. Like, everyone seems to be knowing when to go, where to go. And that's been pretty vital in terms of overall defense for the Nuggets this year, and why they have been, I believe, better than last season defensively. KCP, Jokic, AG, all averaging over 1 steal a game. Jamal Murray right there at 0.8. Julian Strawther has had a couple games of multiple steals. Jamal Murray's had multiple games of multiple steals. These guys make plays on the perimeter. They don't do it at an elite level, I will say. The event creation and making plays on the ball on the three-point line, they don't do it as well as the elite defensive teams in the league. We know this, and that is, I'm not going to hold that against them at all. This has often been a sore point of this defense, especially last year, and it was talked about a lot in terms of Jokic being a anchor, yada yada. This season is very different. Here are some stats that I looked to give this grade for their interior defense. They have the 5th lowest restricted area opponent percentage at 63.6. They have the 6th lowest in the paint non-restricted area percentage given up at 41.5%. And they give up 50 paint points per game, which is just about average in the league this year. A couple of the factors that gave this interior defense probably a higher grade than a lot of non-Nuggets people would give. Due to MPJ's defensive jump as a help defender and shot alterer or whatever you want to give him, his timing has been so much better. His IQ on defense is climbing, and he's making so many more game-changing defensive plays than he ever has before. Blocking dunks, blocking jump shots. He's making so many plays for himself and for this defense that it's been very noticeable. And a large reason why this interior defense grade is at a B-. Coupled alongside Jokic and AG, Jokic ends a ton of possessions with his defensive rebounding. He has the most in the league, by the way. He gives good, strong, grounded contest, hands up. He makes good swipes on the ball. He hasn't been a lockdown big, but he has been effective. Aaron Gordon and PWatt's multi-level defense also keeps the grade for this category at a B-. It's another good, not fantastic situation, but I do think that they are about the same as the perimeter defense, I would say. The inconsistency is hurt, and they've been teetering the line of good and bad games, but they've been teetering a lot more toward the bad games. In the 4 games prior to the game against the Grizzlies, the Nuggets bench had a minus 26.5 net rating, averaged only 23 points a game, 30% from 3, and only 4.5 stocks. The people on the bench have been doing their best, and you can tell that there is effort there. It's just about skill gap in terms of who they're playing against on the floor at times. Julian Strawther has been a surprise defensively to me. I think specifically just as a steal quote unquote merchant, someone who is really active in the lane, someone who's made some good blocks, I would say, offensively for Julian Strawther. His 3-point shooting is not at the peak, but I think it's been very serviceable for his minutes. And I think, I'm gonna speak for myself, I think my expectations of his 3-point shooting were just a tiny bit high when he was coming into this year. I should have dialed it back just a bit, but him being at what he's at right now and 33% as a rookie shooting threes, I'm perfectly okay with that. I really am. Peyton Watson has been very good relative to my expectations of him coming into the season. The defense has been expected, if not better. His offense is rounding out and he's fitting into the offensive flow. He just dropped a career high 20 points and 4 threes versus the Grizzlies. His finishing game is excelling. He's got a lot more clean two-steps, smarter moves around the rim to avoid blocks or hard contests. Peyton Watson has been putting in the work, and it's been paying off greatly. Reggie Jackson has had some damn good games and some damn bad games. His masterclass versus the Clippers alongside DJ, we will never forget, one of the greatest turn back the clock moments in the last few years. But in his last 5 games, Reggie's only averaged 5 points, 4 rebounds, 2 turnovers on sub 30% shooting from the field, and 1 of 11 from 3. For the bench, inconsistency hurts a lot, and overall quantitative production hurts this grade a lot. It pains me to have to give someone a D+ in this video because that wasn't my intention, but I gotta keep it real. It just has been way too flippy floppy, and they've been, like I said, leaning more toward the bad than the good, and there hasn't been enough stretches of good play consistently to where I think I can warrant giving them anything higher than probably a C, right? And I feel like that would be generous. They've been losing the leads when Jokic leaves the floor, and it's been happening less this season, I feel like, than last season, but it has still happened. It's been pretty noticeable, and even if they don't lose the lead all the way, they cut the deficit down to where it becomes a game. The setup of the team is just generally going to lean more toward a superstar starting 5 than it is toward a really developed bench. The bench is a project. We all know this, which is why they have a D+ right now, because they're super young guys. They are guys who are not established in the league besides Reggie Jackson, and they are guys who are looking to carve out their role, not on just this team, but in the NBA in general, right? They're still trying to find themselves. It's hard to expect them to be really good when they're trying to figure out who they are as a basketball player in the professionals, right? But this is not to say that they don't have their moments of shine, because they definitely do. They definitely do. With Jokic's weird slump seemingly over, Jamal Murray's return to 20 points a night, and the rest of the Nuggets rotation putting in their fair share, the Nuggets are progressing through the season beautifully. Can they keep riding this wave throughout the end of the year? Will it stop at any point? Will they hit a cold streak? Will their bench will their bench put together more stretches of consistency and more often? How long will AG be missing time? All of these questions we need to be patient, as the answers to these questions are going to reveal themselves as the season goes on. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.